Hello and welcome to our podcast, Radio See the Future, where we dive into stories about the relationship between humans and the ocean. Sailing Hirondelle is a one-year expedition in northwestern Europe to highlight local aspects of a global marine crisis. You can follow us throughout this maritime and human adventure on social media as well as on our website, sailinghirondelle.com. In this third episode, we meet Helena Schneider, a young German solo sailor who at the time of the recording was waiting out the winter storms in the Brest harbour. After studying naval architecture for 2 years and many, many years of sailing, she had planned to cross the Atlantic to reach a school of yacht design in Maine, USA. Thanks to her Instagram account, she's trying to make this voyage an occasion to promote sustainability while cruising. We met up on our sailboat, Freedom, drinking warm tea as the squalls passed above us, constantly reminding us of the strength of ocean winds and why we were all cooped up in the harbour waiting for fairer weather. So how does a sailor fall in love with the ocean, and how can a sailor help protect it? Let's see.
I'm Helena. I'm sailing solo to hopefully America, and hopefully before September. It might not happen just now because right now we're in Brest and we're stuck here since like 2 weeks. But yes, the plan is to sail solo to America, and I've set off in the UK where I've lived for the last 4 years, and I'm trying to make my way via France, Spain, Portugal, the Canaries, the Caribbean, to the north of America. Hopefully before any blizzards arrive there as well.
What brought you to sailing and to wanting to live on the ocean?
So initially, so my parents are not really sailors. Not at all actually, they're motorboaters, but they always took a great pleasure in the sea, and I've always had a really active lifestyle with my parents. My mum decided she wants to put me into a summer camp for sailing with like kids my age. So that's great, it's a great playground, and it was a summer camp full of sailing and being out on the water, and I think I was like just about 6 or 7 years old when I sat in an Optimist for the first time, and I was like so in love. It's like the best time ever, and I think it just developed from there. The lake that I was sailing on was outside my hometown, so I had to sort of take the train, go there by train for half an hour, go to this lake, and it just felt like freedom, like just being on this tiny little lake in Essen, close enough to the sort of, I don't know, with my sailing bag, with my little sailing shoes. I was the proudest person ever. But it just continued all the way through high school, so I was the weirdo at school always wearing the boat shoes. Because I couldn't wait to be back on the water, really. And it continued from Optimist sailing to 420 sailing with a sailing partner to quite a competitive level, and it was just really enjoyable. And then I wanted to share that enjoyment a bit more, so as soon as I could, I started working during the summers as a sailing teacher. And it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of hard work, but it was amazing. And I started teaching also private classes in German and English. And I think this is where I sort of started to sail in English more than German, actually. So when I left high school, I went into super yachting for a couple of months and learned more sailing terms. And then I did a yachtmaster course in England, a yachtmaster offshore. And there I sort of did my yachting vocabulary. And then I bought Freedom, this boat that we're on right now, in Greece. And sailed her to France, and that was where, I realised that I will probably never be able to sail in German anymore.
And so you work, you're currently living on a boat and going to university, or working your way to get to university in America. Yeah. And how would you, if you had to describe what it's like living on a sailboat and working on sailboats to someone who doesn't know the sea, how would you describe it?
It's everything. It's just absolutely everything. It's not, like, to a lot of people, sailing is a hobby, like to get out from the busy city life, but I think once you decide that actually you don't want it to be a hobby because you're so much happier on the water, and you decide to sort of leave that conventional life behind of owning really nice furniture and like choosing your next design armchair or something, you make a really big step towards like freedom, like actual freedom. You don't have all this baggage with you. I mean, don't look into the corners of this boat right now. There's a lot of baggage here. But you sort of, I don't know, it just feels really free. And it feels like, I don't know, you can channel your inner hippie a bit more. And you're so connected to the elements. Like right now we're on this boat and you hear the lines creaking, you hear the wind and the other masts, and it's all rocking a bit. We have to sort of stand the microphone up on a mat, otherwise it's going to slide down the table. I don't know, you make maybe a lot of sacrifices in some people's eyes, but your life just gets so much richer. I mean, I met you guys, like sailing Hirondelle, by being on a boat, being next door to you, and just like, I don't know, it's like such a different sense of community. Like you would never go to your next door flat neighbour and ask them about how they solved their toilet problem they had last week, or which colour of cushions they decided to go for, because it's so hard to decide on a decent colour in a boat. It's like, I don't know, life gets just so much more fun, really.
And if I go back to yacht design, which is the profession you aspire to exercise.
Yeah.
What made you want to do that?
So to be really honest, initially I wanted to, like for a long time I wanted to design super yachts, just because I think as a designer you get to play a bit. And I did an internship with a company called Lösen in the north of Germany. They're a great company and they design and build really beautiful yachts. But I think sort of over the time of me being on boats, learning about boats, seeing all kinds of different boats, and like literally, for example, at university, waking up on a boat, going to university to talk about boats in a professional way, and then afterwards studying boats as homework, and then going to the pub and talking rubbish about boats with your mates, and then coming back to a boat. I think at one point I just decided, I don't know, I need to take a slightly different approach. So I think in the end I will not design boats, because I had a bit enough of boats at the moment. I will sort of design floating structures, just sort of homes, or maybe emergency homes that bring people closer to the water in whichever way that is. But that's probably a whole nother series of a podcast right there. An emergency relief floating unit. And if anybody listens to this and really wants to build it, let me know. I really want to help. Because I just think in an emergency situation, for example, like in the Caribbean, where you have a hurricane, and the first people who get sent out is like military, I think they should be supplied with structures for the people living in the devastated area that is actually floating. Because I mean, everything on land first has to be basically tidied up for people to be able to operate normally again. So I think about like structures where you have sort of a water maker area, you have a hospital area. There's a lot of wind right now, a lot of waves.
And a lot of waves.
A lot of waves. So like water maker area, hospital area, an area where people can just meet and feel safe, things like that. I think over the time, being so much indulged in water and environment, you also like realize the dangers of it, and it's not all fun and games. And we're realizing this at the moment, being stuck in Brest, because outside of Brest you've got like 6 to 7 meter waves right now, and you just know it's not always sunshine sailing, and you want to do, well, I want to do something about it. I know you want to do something about it. So I think the end goal is a tiny bit different to what I'm studying right now, but I think it gives you all the tools that you basically need, because you do stability and you do materials, and it's just really exciting stuff out there, also in the sustainability direction. So
and also on boats you have to have a lot of things in a very small space, and so for this sort of thing you'd like to build, that's also, or design in any case, that's also a major consideration, how to have something that's space efficient and that can be easily put in place.
No, that's true. And I mean,
really interesting.
I'm quite excited to bend my brain into more bends than it is actually at the moment, just because I mean these modules are like something I want to do in a couple of years when I have enough knowledge for it and just feel comfortable. Also with like these emergency situations, because maybe I end up volunteering for like an emergency service just to see what's the right thing to do, and actually what they really need is, I don't know, teddy bears. But I don't think so. But I just really want to be sure that I'm actually designing something that can help people instead of designing something where governments spend money on it and in the end it doesn't make any sense and nobody's helped. So, yeah. Maybe a political approach to this.
And we already realized that the fragility of the ocean is something that you're definitely aware of. And if you had to choose or decide, say that there's one main issue for the ocean right now, above all the others, what would it be for you?
To maybe break it down to one thing that we can change. Does that make sense? Because, I mean, there's issues ongoing where we have to have such a huge impact to actually change something like the temperature change of the ocean. I mean, how terrible is that? Or the oxygen levels changing and all of these things where you just, when you think about it, you feel so incredibly helpless. Like, it's just overwhelming when you think about it. But I think things we can tackle all the time, also on land, is like the pollution of the ocean, the pollution with things we can see, like plastic bottles, just plastic wrapping, fishing nets, these things. And then also microplastics, and then fibers, like of clothing and coming out of washing into the ocean. I think there's just, I don't know, I just want to scream. But instead of screaming, I try to do something about it. Because, nobody would be helped if I started screaming right here. I'm just incredibly conscious of pollution, and I'm so in love with seabirds, and it's heartbreaking when you sort of realise that this really fragile environment that seabirds are in anyway, because they're like so exposed to the elements that on top of their own challenges, we sort of have a fancy looking microplastic in the ocean that these birds want to eat, and then they feed their chicks microplastic, and you just think, oh my god, how dare we treat these animals like that, and how dare we treat this ocean like this? And I don't know, I think we can all sort of change this a bit, and I think awareness is shifting, so that's good. But I think also more land-based people have to be aware of that their actions have such a major impact on our environment.
Yeah. And so what do you try to do to limit pollution?
In my very private life, I try to use as little plastic as I can, and really try to be conscious about the way I do use it, if I use it. I'm not perfect in any way, especially not in like pollution reduction, but I just try to sort of go consciously grocery shopping, don't do impulse buying, try to bring my containers to shops and be that really annoying hippie that is sort of like, can you put this cheese into this container? Sometimes, we're healing, sometimes it doesn't work because of health and safety. But sometimes it does, and then it's great, and you realise that everybody's awareness is shifting, and people are happy when you bring your own containers. And I think, you can change it in so many ways. Like, for example, I wear little or no makeup, just because I think it's such a pointless thing, first of all, because we sort of pretend to be something we're not, even if it's just healthy looking. But then, I mean, you've got all these containers, and then what do you do with them? Because I don't know any shops that sell sort of makeup in little bars that you then can reuse. Maybe there is some, I'm sure there is some, but I just think it's such an extra hassle to think about that I try to like don't go that way. Like personal hygiene, I'm down to shampoo bars without wrapping, and other like female hygiene products that don't use plastic or cotton and that are reusable. And it's so funny, I'm talking around it because it's still such a taboo topic.
Yes.
Hello everybody, I'm using a moon cup because it's amazing. And it's just, I think it was quite a game changer, because just as a female, when you think about how much rubbish and shit there is in a tampon, and then you dispose of it after you've used it for like 4 hours, it's insane. It's really mind-blowing. And then also when you think about these pads that you're using with the glue to glue them into your panties, you just think that's a composite that you're never gonna like be able to recycle. And I mean, nobody wants to recycle your pad, but it's just, do you know, it's incredibly awkward talking about it, but I think we have to sort of talk about it and say, well, actually there are alternatives, they're working, they're super safe, I've been using them for a couple of years now, I'm still here, I'm just a bit more hippie than I was before, and a bit more of an advocate for it. But I mean, that is like my private life, and then in the boat life, like the whole refit, I try to make it more sustainable. Oh my god, everything's falling right now. We're heating so much. So this whole refit that I did to Freedom over the course of the last summer was based around trying to find companies that do care and that want to make changes and that want to rethink their own company policy, and think about where they like put sustainability, also with their employees. It's been incredibly hard, but it's also been incredibly rewarding because, I don't know, there were so many actually really great companies that were sort of listening to my rant about packaging problems, and like a company that has supplied me with filters, water filters, has changed their packaging to sort of recyclable, not bubble wrap, it's like cardboard, but sort of fluffy cardboard that you can use as a bouncy material so things don't break when you package them. And I mean, on the boat, like for example, now I have a water filter for drinking water, so I can drink dock water of any dock anywhere in the world, and it's drinkable, which is really nice. So that way I don't need to buy loads and loads of plastic bottles. I mean, yes, of course, for safety, if something is super badly contaminated, but I mean, I try to taste the water before I put it in the tank, and if I don't die, I know it's okay. And then the same company called Halyard, I don't know if I can say that, Halyard Marine, they've also supplied me with a bilge filter that I've installed inline from the deepest point in the boat, the bilge, where all the rubbish is really collecting. It's most of the time just water, and even that is annoying. But if there is a coolant leak or a diesel leak or anything like it, and it collects in the bilge, and you want to pump it overboard, like anybody does really, it's not a secret, it doesn't contaminate the ocean. Like it goes through this filter, and this filter just collects all of the stuff that you don't want in the ocean. After I test used this filter, after I put it in for like 10 times, I just like pushed my handle like on the manual bilge pump 10 times. It was full of microplastics. And I didn't realize, I was like, where is this all coming from? And then I realized, while I thought I kept my bilge clean and dry, I did some drilling in the hull, and there was some, well, on purpose, I put a sea cork in. But like the dust collected in the filter and it would have gone overboard, and I mean, it's microplastic. It's like no fish can see if it's food or microplastic, and then it's in the food chain, and it's just in the food chain so quickly, and we all know that plastic is basically an endocrine disruptor, so it messes up the hormone system of mammals and fish and everything. It's really bad stuff. And this is also why I've teamed up with the British Coating Federation on the hull. We do a research project about more sustainable antifouling solutions, because there's also microplastic. But yeah, I could continue talking.
Yeah, and so the antifouling being tested on your hull right now, you have several sorts that are being tested. Yeah. And none of them contain plastics, or are they?
No. So there's 7 products in total that I'm testing in different areas of the hull, and 5 of them are basically completely new concepts that have rethought the process, like barnacles are attaching to the hull. I have to be slightly careful what I'm saying to not sort of, because it's sort of a secret research project. But 2 products do contain copper, and I mean, when they're containing metals, I think basically, I don't want to say something wrong, I'm not a scientist, but to have all of this stuff mixed together and stay together, with it being still ablative, because that's what these conventional antifoulings are. I mean, when you're moving through the water and a plant attaches to it, the point of this antifouling that everybody uses is that the plant comes off, but it comes off with a tiny bit of this antifouling, and this tiny bit of this antifouling is a microplastic because it's a polymer bond. And when you think about it, is a shocking amount of antifouling floating around, like just about here in this marina. It's terrible because everybody's using ablative antifouling. So, yeah. I mean, I think the Paint Association, the British Coating Federation, is really pushing sustainability a lot. I think they're doing a great job, and it's really nice to see like so many companies on board, and they really want to test their products also, like with me, through various salinity zones and various temperature zones, and it's just going to be so interesting for them to see how it all performs, and if it goes well, if they need to change things. So I'm really happy to help in that way as well. What was the question? I think I'm losing the plot right now.
Yeah, that's okay. And also, as you've been on the ocean a lot and sailing, and as you've been stuck in Brest for 18 days now, still counting and waiting for the right weather window to be able to finally stick our noses outside of the rad. Do you as a sailor see any consequences of climate change, or what you might think? Do you see any evolution in weather?
Yeah, I mean, we privately just had this conversation, I think, yesterday or the day before, about how we suddenly really realise how climate change is affecting our weather patterns, and how just, I think, systems are sort of moving faster and slightly more unpredictable. So even meteorologists sometimes now are like, well, we can't actually predict more than a couple of days now, and that not even really securely, because the weather just starts to be a bit unpredictable. And I think globally speaking, a lot of the trade winds are changing strength, and the streams are changing strength as well, and it's just terrifying, because I mean, we are sailing, we think that wind is always going to be there, and hopefully it will be, but it will just change to anything that we've known for the last centuries, with like reliable strong winds. Suddenly they're really flaky, or suddenly they're going a different direction. Suddenly some highs, like the Azores high, don't high anymore where they should high. And it's like, it's frustrating, because you just see change everywhere, and then when you hear people talking about climate change is not real, I don't know, I would like to slap people, and normally I'm not really aggressive. But yeah, I mean, this is why you're doing what you're doing, I think, to sort of educate people and be like, actually guys, it is real, and we're all stuck in the middle of it, and it's incredibly frustrating. So yeah.
Where do you think your eco-conscious come from?
I'm not sure, but maybe sailing. Maybe it has come from sailing, actually. And I think, I'm sure we discussed climate change in biology, but I think because I'm sailing, because you're so close to the elements, you see, I don't know, when you're a child and you see a plastic bag in the water, you just think the plastic bag is not meant to be here. And I think you sort of grow a bit angry with people who, like next to the lake that you're sailing on, sort of just throw their Kit Kat paper on the floor. And I started to be that really annoying person, and it's like, you dropped something over there. And people are normally so embarrassed, they pick it up and they're like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, well, you better be. But yeah, I don't know, it must have been sailing, but I think it's really developed over the time. Like, I turned vegetarian a couple of years ago, and I've been really horrible about it with my parents, so they turned vegetarian. And then I moved to the UK, where being a vegetarian was sort of quite difficult, because everybody's sort of eating bacon all the time. Not just a prejudice. I think it's getting a lot better now, and there's a lot of vegetarian options, but at first you don't really see them. And then I sort of was a bit like, okay, if there's not a vegetarian option, I'll just have this dish and not be annoying about it. And then I saw my parents again, and my parents are full-on vegetarians. I mean, they're the kind that you sort of meet, and you know this joke, how do you know somebody's a vegetarian? Like, they'll tell you within 2 sentences of meeting. Like, we enter a restaurant, and my parents are like, we're vegetarians. I'm like, oh my god, mum, please. But, I mean, they're so serious about it, and they really listened to what I said, so I thought I have to up my game again a bit. So I turned full-on vegetarian again, and I just try to be as conscious as I can. But it has certainly developed. Like, I've never been such a hippie like I am right now, and such an advocate for other hippies to sort of be more conscious and do better things for the environment. But I do think it's like a snowball effect. Like you start one thing and then you realize, oh, I could also change my habits in another area, and my habits maybe in this area that I haven't even thought about. And it's just, it's a bit of a challenge, because you just realize that there's loads of areas that we're not tackling yet, but it's also really hope-inducing. I think it's a really important thing that we stay sort of hopeful for the future, because otherwise, if we just tell everybody our planet is going to be super polluted, it's going to be horrible, all the fish are going to die, and the seabirds as well, and you tell this to children, well, they're going to be like, well, that's great, thank you very much. So I think we have to sort of stay hopeful and see like the awareness is shifting, more people want to join, maybe don't know how to join yet, and then we can sort of be like, this is what you can start to do, and then you just get the same snowball effect going. And you see that they, by themselves, because we're all intelligent beings, start tackling other areas in their life, and it's just really rewarding to see.
And so how would you go about for raising awareness on the ocean and on ocean issues such as pollution or climate change, fishing, overfishing?
How would I go about it? I think there's a lot of people out there that are a lot better at vocalizing these problems than me.
Yeah.
I think it's important to...
You're just bringing people sailing. Well, that they get to feel the change.
Exactly, but directly. I mean, you're doing that really well. It's really inspiring. I think I try to talk to people about these things, people that I meet. I think at the moment my social media is a bit all over the place, because for one, I want to really get the message out there, so of which companies I worked with. But then there's also sort of the challenges of being a one-woman show, equality and stuff, a one-person show, where sort of, I don't know, you have to deal with your own challenges, like the frustration of being stuck in port. Not necessarily Brest is wonderful, but being stuck in a port, do your little day-to-day jobs to stay sane, do the boat maintenance. I don't know, I think I would really like to sort of get done with the boat maintenance, which is sort of a utopic thought. You're never going to be done with that. But maybe I should be slightly more vocal about it, like about the rubbish I see. And I mean, when I walk past a harbour and I see things floating in the water, I'll post a picture about it. But then again, I don't have a huge, crazy following on social media, because it's just me, and I'm not a PR person, and I'm just like, hello, I'm sailing, what do you do? Yeah, so I think it's great when people use their channels purposefully, and if they do connect with other people about this topic. And like I've talked to the girls from Expedition that are researching the oceans for microplastics and fibres, and they're doing such an amazing job. And I was really happy to pay the entry to one of their panel discussions with a workshop where, again, it was about raising awareness, but you're also sort of funding with your ticket price their journey to more information, and it's rewarding. And I mean, there's so many great wildlife preserving organizations out there that you can support. So I try to support wildlife organisations, really, and hope for the best and protect the dolphins and whales. They're my friends. Can we take that out, please?
Yeah. And do you have any anecdotes about the ocean, or about your relation to the ocean, or about anything, or about sailing? Any funny story that pops in mind that might...
Funny?
Or not necessarily funny, or whatever story.
I mean, quite recently when it's more dramatic, it's not funny.
Okay.
No, recently when I crossed the channel alone, and it was sort of my longest distance, sailed alone so far, like properly sailed in big waves and sort of biggish weather. It's not as much as right now, but it was a bit bigger. I just realised that we need the ocean, but the ocean doesn't need us. Do you know what I mean? Because you just realise you're such a small little dot of nothing on a really big ocean that is so full of life that we don't understand. And yes, we need to protect it, but in the end, if it doesn't want us to be there, it will be very clear about that, I think. So it can, I mean, you just realize how quickly things can get dangerous. And yeah, I don't know, it's not, it does need our protection, because in its big, brutal way, beautiful way, it is very fragile, but then again, it doesn't really need us humans to be there. Do you know what I mean? It would be so much better off if we weren't polluting it all the time. But that's a very, very hopeless thing to say. So I need to find a funny anecdote about sailing now. A sort of funny thing was that when I started refitting the boat, a lot of people in the yard I was in sort of rolled their eyes at first. They were like, sure, she's going to refit her boat and she's going to be environmental about it. Sort of going, anything else? And then over time, I've realised that people actually really want to see change and they want to be part of the change. So, I don't know, at the end of a working day, there was always like some faces popping up in my companionway going like, how are you getting on and what did you do now? And it's just been really nice to see their interest. And I mean, the most visible interest when the boat was out of the water was the antifouling, because I mean, freedom looks a bit like a, I don't know, piece of modern art under the waterline, and people were really wondering what it's about. And all these people also working on boats, they want to see the change and they want companies to make the change. But I think we sort of all need to make a change. We can't be like, companies, please make a change while I'll do something not so good for the environment. It's sort of all of us need to make some sacrifice somewhere to have like a gain in the bigger picture. So it's been really rewarding at the end of the refit how many people were actually like, well done for doing this, and it's been really interesting to sort of see what you can change, and that was incredibly rewarding. It was delayed, of course, but apart from that, it was fun.
These small yet inspiring changes are exactly what we hope to encourage through Expedition See the Future. The impacts our activities have on the ocean aren't always visible, yet we all depend on it not only for our livelihoods, but also as a source of calm and inspiration. Sailing puts you face to face with the ocean's incredible strength and energy, forcing respect and understanding of its essential roles on Earth. By showing that it is possible to sail and live while doing her best to respect and care for the ocean, lending bits of her hull to ocean-friendly anti-fouling research, and giving everyday examples of ocean-friendly behaviour, hopefully Helena's voyage will be an inspiration for sailors and beachgoers alike. Thank you for listening to this third episode of Radio See the Future, and stay tuned for the next episode on sailinghirondelle.com.